Hi folks, Tino here and welcome to the latest episode of CSC Stories right here on the Celtic Exchange. This new series was inspired by the new book Football Without Fans, written and compiled by Davy McIntyre of CelticBars.com, and it's a book which provides the definitive and up-to-date history of Celtic Supporters Clubs across the globe. For this episode, we're heading over the water to speak with Ian and Conor at the Cork No.1 CSC. Lads, welcome both to the show. Ian, I'll come to you first. How are things over in Cork?
Yeah, things are very good, Tino. I'll just start off by wishing Davy massive congratulations on his book.
Yeah.
He provides a brilliant service to Celtic supporters around the world. It was just through communicating with him where he was able to point us in your direction with the CSCs related podcast that you're doing. And it was just when I seen that, it came across to me as a great opportunity for the likes of myself and Conor to promote our CSC.
Yeah, do you know, it's incredible stuff. I continue to promote the book every time I come on, and rightfully so. It's Davy's book, Football Without Fans, as mentioned. It's just such a detailed history documentation of the various CSCs. I think there's 403 CSCs covered, and of course, the Cork No.1 is definitely one of them. So delighted to get you on to tell the story. Conor, thanks to yourself too for joining us. How's things yourself?
Yeah, I'm very well known. It's great to be on the podcast. I've listened to the first couple of episodes that have come out so far, and it's been a real insight to other CSCs around the place and hearing their stories. And I believe it's a huge opportunity for us to kind of tell our story and, you know, introduce ourselves to people who might not have heard from us or about us just yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's all about. It's kind of spreading the news and getting those various stories out there. Conor, I'll stay with you for now. What I like to do, with any of the guests that we have on is to get, first of all, before we get into the details about the club, your own personal story, your own kind of journey into Celtic. So what about yourself, Conor? How did that come to be for you?
Well, from a very young age, I suppose I always had Celtic shirts, wore them all around the place, but we didn't really have access in my house anyway to SPL games or any form of Scottish football really. The only thing that we used to get really was kind of like the match of the day or the Irish equivalent to that. So while I always kind of followed Celtic, I probably early on was probably more of a Liverpool supporter. That would have been just born out of being able to see those games more regularly. Kind of drifted away from supporting football teams kind of into my teenage years. Just didn't really like the product that was on the pitch, I suppose in the UK you could say, or in England. And with the sports I was playing, just started following kind of maybe more local, you know, the GA clubs, the hurling, the Gaelic football, rugby. And I grew up with Ian, and I kind of knew Ian's interest in Celtic, and we kind of started talking over it and that sort of thing. And he was telling me that I should try and get over to see a game and try and get to an away day. Funnily enough, it was kind of the thing he was saying, you know, run before you can walk kind of stuff. But I think it was in 2017, I think, he came to me and he said, look, there's a winter break. Would you have an interest in going up to Glasgow just for a weekend? We'll go do the tour of the stadium, you know, do a couple of the Celtic bars around Celtic Park and, you know, get a feel for it, give me my first, you know, look at it. And it's a memory that kind of sticks out in my head, is standing at the bottom of the Celtic Way, looking up at Celtic Park and just feeling like, Jesus, this is exactly where I want to be and where I should be, kind of thing, you know. Went in, done the tour, was just blown away by it. A few months after that, got to see my first game. Off the top of my head, I can't remember who it was, but got to go over and see that game. And the following kind of autumn, when the league was starting up again, Ian suggested going down to join Cork's No.1. He was already down there as a member, and I went down there, and to be honest, I haven't looked back. It's been just an amazing hobby and place to go down to and be with like-minded people, and it really ignited my love for football again, and like really got invested into what was happening on the pitch, off the pitch. Just, you know, got to go to games, see places, travel around with it, like the things that I wouldn't have done had I stayed with the sports I was following, because, you know, they're not internationally, you know, viewed just yet anyway. But no, that's kind of my whole background around it.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, it sounds like it's obviously quite a stark memory for you there, just at the bottom of the Celtic Way, looking up to the stadium. And you know, I'm trying not to get too fluffy with these kind of things, get too, I don't know, but it sounds like a sense of belonging, you know, maybe at that time for you, and maybe you felt like that was the right place for you, the right vehicle for you to kind of channel your sporting energies. And obviously you've got a lot to thank Ian for in terms of giving you that intro. What about yourself, Ian? What's your own story here in terms of your Celtic supporting life?
Well, I'd be very similar to Conor, really, Tino, in a sense that we weren't born into a Celtic family, you know, or a Celtic household, much like the rest of the general consensus. Like predominantly in Cork, and I suppose for the whole island, the whole country, really, not just Cork. Celtic aren't really that popular, and like the most popular teams would have to be your Liverpools, your Man Uniteds, Leeds United were big in the 70s. That's kind of all the big English clubs, and as Conor mentioned there a while ago by Match of the Day, that's how all this started about, and that's why they're still popular to this day. I would have followed in my father's footsteps and would have been born into a Liverpool household. And my father Mick, like, he's a first man for supporting Liverpool from the comfort of his armchair at home, you know. He's big into them. He loves watching them on the telly. But like, I suppose I first became aware of Celtic in my school days, and I just remember being intrigued, I suppose, under Gordon Strachan's era, when he was kind of at the age where he was getting a bit older. And I remember seeing, you know, the memorable wins against Man United and AC Milan.
Yeah.
You know, those famous European nights. And then I think it was until 2012, like the famous 2-1 win over Barcelona. That kind of became the turning point for me. And I said it was after seeing the atmosphere on telly, you know, seeing all the colour, the emotion, everything. That was when I said, I want to go see a Celtic game. And I suppose, you know, having an older brother is a great influence on me, you know, and my journey, because like he would have sampled the atmosphere himself. And I think, like, throughout my teens, I kept an eye on him. I want to go to a Celtic game. When can I go? And you know what? I always got the same answer, and that was, Ian, you're too young. No, I know why. Yeah. And I never forget my 18th birthday. Christmas. Oh, sorry, it was when I turned 18. The following Christmas, I got a present Christmas Day, 2 tickets to Inter Milan and Celtic. The Europa League last 32. Date was February 2015. It was the game where we lost 1-0. Virgil van Dijk was sent off, but you know what? I didn't care, because it was after that day I was just hooked. It was like a light switch going off. I was just blown away by everything to do with it. You know, the fans, the atmosphere, the crack. And it was after that trip is when I joined the Cork No.1 CSC, and I just didn't look back from there.
Yeah, and the rest is history. It's a brilliant story, and it's a brilliant introduction. And I suppose, you know, spoke about Conor has a lot to thank yourself for, and you've obviously got thanks to your own brother for opening the door for you in terms of getting you involved in those trips. Conor, obviously, Ian's talked there about some of his fondest memories, you know, between Barcelona 2012 and that Inter Milan game and a few others in between, some big moments under Gordon Strachan before that. Over yourself, obviously you're a bit more recent to things, Celtic-wise. You've timed it nicely, I'd say. You know, you've picked up some quadruple trebles and lots of kind of, you know, big occasions, you know, just in the very recent history. Is there any that stand out for you in particularly over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to go over to the Scottish final, cup final, where we beat Motherwell to secure a double treble. And I think the following day was Scott Brown's testimonial against the Republic of Ireland. But that would have been my first trip to Hampden, my only trip to Hampden. But I was just blown away by being in, like, was it a 70-30 split Celtic, and just the colour, the emotion, the real, you know, feel that was inside the park that day was amazing. And then to kind of get a cherry on top of the game against the Republic of Ireland for Scott Brown's testimonial the following day, and still have like that passion and everything was still all there for that game. It was just an amazing experience. I've travelled away in Europe to a few games now at this stage, and had some fantastic nights and some not so fantastic nights given the away record that Celtic have, unfortunately. But lucky enough to see them beat Lazio 2-1, famously the first win in Italy. I was in the away end that night, and you know, it's been something that I look back on a lot. Do you know, that kind of way when you get to go down to the Ferry on a Champions League night or Europa League night, and you're sitting in the pub and you're saying, you know, I wish I was kind of in the stand there now, because you know the kind of buzz, the feeling, you know, that kind of way. But they're kind of two of the moments that would definitely stand out to me. As you know, they nearly take a breath away, would be the way to describe them. You know, there's just such passion in those moments. It's a fantastic thing to experience.
Yeah, do you know that Lazio game? That's a huge experience. We've one of the lads, one of the regular lads on the show, Paddy. Paddy's good friend Stevie Keenan is Celtic mad, Celtic fanatic. Goes to almost all the away games going, and I think Stevie's got a very forgettable track record of European away games for Celtic. He's been to something like 32 away games and never seen Celtic win. It's something crazy along those lines. He had to miss the Lazio game because I think it was a stag do for a mate in Amsterdam or something like that. So he chose not to go to Lazio, and Celtic at the big win, and Stevie wasn't there to see it. So you're one up on Stevie already, Conor, and it sounds like a memorable trip. When you said there, going down to the ferry, I realised what you mean. You mean the Ferry Arms bar, I suppose, which is the place you guys drink. So we'll get to that just shortly. In terms of just, you know, a wee bit of headline stuff, Ian, do you want to kind of pick up in terms of just some of the kind of basic or the headline club information, when you guys were founded, your rough membership, and a wee bit more about your base camp there at the Ferry Arms?
Yeah, the club was founded in, this is going back, you know, well before myself and Conor's time. Now I must point out before I start. So a lot of this is second-hand information, but
yeah.
The club was founded in 1988 in a pub called Mad Delays Bar, which is located in Cork City, which is fairly central. Obviously, it was aligned with the Centenary or Celtic Football Club. The original name was Celtic Supporters Club Cork. And what happened was, it was a proposal at the time by a fellow by the name of Alan Buckley, who was the first treasurer of the Supporters Club. He proposed to change the name to the Cork No.1 CSC, as it was the first supporters club in the vicinity, you know. So it was unanimously, that decision was carried unanimously. The founding members were two lads that you met last night at the game, Pat and John Mulcahy, their cousin Paul, Alan Buckley, who I previously mentioned, and a fellow by the name of Michael O'Sullivan, who's no relation to myself. The membership fee to join the club at the time was only £1. So I think in the early days there was never really a permanent kind of a home as such, as the club was trying to find its feet. They kind of went around different bars in the one vicinity. Like you had Madeleines Bar, you had Tom Lynch's, you had the Ard Manning, which is closed now for a long time. The Silver Goblet, the Fairs Walk Tavern. You know, they were all very close. And that was kind of the consensus in the 90s. And what happened in the 90s then, even though the performances on the pitch weren't very good, which is well documented, the Cork No.1 CSC was in a very, very healthy state. And as I said already, the club, people kind of got a bit fed up with as expensive as Cork County is. Like, you have members scattered to 4 corners of the county, which is the biggest in Ireland, you know. But what happened then was we had hubs set up, like in all the different towns and villages across the county, which made things easier for people to get there, and members and all that. But Passage West was one of these towns, and that the Ferry Arms was where we called home since the Martin O'Neill era. And we just have absolutely brilliant memories down there, as Conor obviously mentioned. Christy Burke, big shout out to him, who was the owner. He's been the owner this is his 36th year as owner of the Ferry Arms. And if you just go down, it's a small pub, you know, but you'll meet some of the biggest characters in there, you know, like Rangers games, cup finals, cup semi-finals. They're great memories to look back on, and Christy himself, like, he's very, very supportive of what we do. Like, he's a good man to sponsor merchandise. He's a good man to charity events, any club functions. He really is the heartbeat of the Cork No.1 CSC, to tell you the truth. Yeah. That kind of sums him up as best as I could. I can't really praise him high enough, you know.
Yeah.
To date, we have 173 members, I think, give or take, which is it's big enough for it's more than enough for the CS for a club committee to handle. And yeah, we're going very well at the moment. We have season tickets that are being used every week. We could have, I'd say, we comfortably have 20 members at every home game, which is a big plus for us, you know. Yeah. And I think, like, our ticket officer, he's constantly ordering extras for match days coming up to, like, we've St. Mirren now, we have Livingston in the Cup. You know, extra tickets are always have to be ordered, which is a great plus for us as well.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm delighted that you've mentioned Christy Burke, that owns the bar, because one of the important questions we always like to ask, you know, obviously we'll speak to a couple of members at any given time from any given CSC, but it's not just the work of one and two men. It's it's many good people are required to make any CSC a success, and it's great to hear the support you get from Christy. And I believe his brother Finbar is also, you know, a prominent member of the community there. And I know he had his health challenges recently, but, you know, I spoke to you before coming on here, and it sounds like Finbar's in good health just now, and I'm delighted to hear that. Is there anyone else, Ian, beyond the Burke brothers that have been pivotal and are, you know, a continued part of what you guys are doing?
There is. There's like, I think people who are going to watch this podcast, you know, I think there's people going to come on and they're going to know who I'm going to mention. His name is Neil Riley, who is a very synonymous name with the Celtic supporters, particularly in Ireland. He's a man who's been around a long time, he's been ticket officer and secretary of the Cork No.1. Geez, I don't know exactly how long he's been doing it, you know, but he's a good father figure now for us all in the CSC, and his sons, they're all on the committee. His son-in-law is on the committee. He's the heart and soul of the CSC, and everything just seems to evolve around him. He's trying to, I suppose, what he's trying to do now is, like, I suppose, how do I describe it? He's trying to back away slowly and disappear into the mist and try and let the younger blood come through.
Yeah.
And I think, like, it's going to annoy him in such a sense that people are always going to be, like, he's never going to be fully kind of gone figure. He's always going to be there in the background. He's always going to be, pulling the strings. He's he's just phenomenal. The work he puts in. Like I think he's 68 now. Like 60, he's in his late 60s. And I'll be honest with you, I never seen a man to retire from work and become more busy as he gets older. Because he's also, like last year, I don't know if you're familiar with the Association of Irish CSCs.
I know of them, yeah.
You would have heard of them for sure, but he would have he took up the role of secretary for them. This is his second season doing it, and it's just non-stop with him. He's constantly emailing, he's constantly, texting other people, relevant people. He never stops. He never stops. To quote Ange Postecoglou, the man just does moment to call it a day, and credit to him because it's in the blood with him,
And you need guys with that kind of energy, and it's great to hear you speak so kindly of Neil and the work he does. And as I say, I'm sure there's other guys in the background that continue to support Neil and all the good work you guys do. Conor, Ian's mentioned there that the club hold a number of season tickets. I don't know if you mentioned maybe 20 tickets at any given time, Ian. And it's great to hear of that because obviously, we speak to the various CSCs and some are in various corners of the globe, and there's no reasonable way for them to attend any matches at any given time. It's all through satellite links and Celtic TV accounts. But it's great that you guys have got, very much the gateway, to come and attend matches at any given time. Is that a real attraction, Conor, in terms of, your own membership of the club and potentially to attract other members to get involved with what you do?
Absolutely, I'd say it as very attractive. I mean, I don't know of any other CSCs that can say that they have 20 members books available. They're fairly shared out with compact systems and everything. So, it's not just the same fellas going to get to see the big games all the time, So you have ample opportunity to get over and see whatever game you want to go and see. And as Ian mentioned, like Neil's work around the tickets and all that is, like, the man just doesn't seem to ever tire of it. He's been fantastic, in terms of distribution and making sure that every fella's accommodated. It's just been fantastic. But it definitely is a huge advantage and a huge selling point, I suppose you could say, for our CSC. It's one of many selling points. But it's very, very attractive.
Yeah, good to hear.
Like, we don't, just add on to Conor's point there, we don't try to be the biggest CSC by any means of the stretch of the imagination. But what we do try to do is be the best. If what we want to do is be fair to everyone, give everyone a chance. There's no favoritism, which can easily happen. And like how politics, like with any given organisation, with people, amongst a bunch of fellas, there's favoritism, there's politics. There's not backhanders, but you know what I'm trying to say. We just try to have an open slate with everyone and just try to be fair and best we can, which is, for me, the biggest selling point of all. You see that transparency, that translucency, and I just think when people see that, it's a massive pull factor for people to come on board and join a club like ours.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Other people might be reluctant to get on board a very well established club. What's that, kind of 36 years, something like that? And some people might view that from the outside as a closed shop, and what's the point? I'll just be bottom of the queue, that kind of thing. So it sounds like there's good opportunities for any new blood, as you say, Ian, to get involved. And even on that, just to kind of take it back then, so, formed in 1988, yes, perfect timing in terms of Celtic stuff, the Centenary season. I'm sure it was pretty challenging during the 90s to attract folks based on certainly what Celtic were doing on the park. But, as you say, if you continue to do the right things as a club, I'm sure the right members will come along. Much better times, from 2000 onwards under Martin O'Neill. And actually, for the most part, and let's maybe put Europe to the side for a minute, Celtic have enjoyed huge success over the years, during those times. And I'm sure there's lots of happy memories as a club, first and foremost. I believe, and again, this might be before your time, Ian, but I believe there was some kind of important guests that visited over the years, Lisbon Lions like Billy McNeil, Bertie Auld, Stevie Chalmers. And in more recent times, fellas like John Hartson and Peter Grant, how much of a boost does that give the guys, at the club that, figures very closely associated with Celtic have made the effort to come all the way across and make a visit?
Yes, it's massive. It's like, first and foremost, you have to say a big thank you to these guys like Peter Grant, John Hartson, as you mentioned. They're first to put their hand up and say that they'll travel anywhere. They'll go to any event. Like ourselves, we've been very, very lucky down the years to have all these different people, all these high profile names attend our dinner dances, which we would hold. We'd hold one every like, we had one of our 10th year anniversary. We'd a lot of big names, Lisbon Lions. We had Bobby Lennox. We had Charlie Gallagher. We had all these big, huge, massive names. Hartson, as you mentioned, and the same with the 20th anniversary, and the same in the 30th anniversary, which we just had, which was one that myself and Conor were at. That would be more our time. We had Hartson, Rap Douglas, Danny Craney, who would be kind of a less prominent figure, really, I suppose. But another guy that came along was a fella by the name of Mick Conroy, who was famous for the 10 men who won the league.
Yes,
in 1979. And you also had he was massive in the 1980 Cup final.
Yeah,
where he was predominantly a defensive midfielder, but then reverted back to centre back, due to injuries to the squad at the time. And yeah, look, just to go back to what you said there, having these names and having the ability to pull them along to come to our events is huge. It's, again, it's just glamour. It worked well in any advertisement opportunity that someone might have. Having John Hartson's face stamped onto a poster there, and fellas will flock to see him.
Yeah, I'm sure it gives you a huge boost. You mentioned Mike Conroy, not a guy I know particularly well, but the 10 men won the league 1979. There's so many folks I speak to of a slightly older generation than myself that highlight that as their best night ever supporting Celtic, by all accounts. Really special night, 4-2 win over Rangers to seal the league. I think Johnny Doyle gets sent off, and yeah, just a real cause for celebration. So great that Mike's been able to join you for that one. Ian, I always like to ask about memorable events that you as a club have had, special trips, away days. And I'll come to Conor in a second, but do you want to take the lead and tell me a wee bit more about Sea Church and or Summerfest, things like that?
Yeah. One thing I start with the Sea Church, I suppose. This is a venue that's new to the area. It's a stunning venue which is situated in a place called Ballycotton, which is on the east coast of County Cork. And like, if you have a good day, you're absolutely laughing because the views are just out of this world. They're the best you'll ever see. So yeah, it's in a seaside town in East Cork. It was created by a man who is he's president of the Cork No.1 CSC, a man by the name of Pierce Flynn. People may or may not have heard of him, but who he is he's a very successful entrepreneur and a businessman. And he's involved in a lot of different ventures across the board. I think he's involved in he started off with telecommunications, and he went on to wind farm energy, which I think is his new project at the moment. But excuse me, he went to Scotland for as part of his college, and that's where he kind of got introduced to Glasgow Celtic. And like myself and Conor and everyone else, when you get there, you just become kind of obsessed with it, I suppose, really. But he's a massive follower of Celtic. He's a big supporter of the Celtic Foundation and all the work that they do. And he was able to buy he's a native of Ballycotton, and what he was able to do was, there's an old Protestant church in the town that's just there lying idle, and what he done was he was able to buy it, renovate it, and convert it into a music venue.
Okay. Which
is and there's also a bar and a restaurant there as well, which is, look, it's a wonderful setup, to tell you the truth. There's all different acts that go down there throughout the year. It's small, but it's very unique. It's actually a great job. And we've been lucky enough as a CSC to have venues down there throughout the years. I think the venue opened. It actually opened, funny enough, it opened in 2020 at the turn of the year, just as the COVID-19 pandemic was to hit. I think it hit the same week, which is just perfect timing for him, you know. But yeah, we've been lucky enough to hold events down there through the years. We had Emer Clacken. She played down there a couple of occasions. And a lot of these events are also for charity, you know, which is something we take very, very seriously, you know, like the rest of the CSCs that have been on your show. There was another event, the Summerfest, which we will go into in a minute. There was also an event called Celts by the Sea, which was an event. It was held, you know, it was regarding the Celtic Foundation, and it was hosted by ourselves. But it was a part representing the association, which I mentioned earlier. It involved a cliff walk that would go down along the coast, and again, you're taking all the views, great photo opportunities. You were joined by you know, many local Celtic supporters in the area, many of the Cork No.1 members, which we were very grateful to have representing us. We had Tosh McKinley. Oh, yeah. We had Peter Grant. We had, and it was a fantastic day. We had a great walk. We went back then to the Sea Church for barbecue. We had a Q&A with the lads. We had music from the Immigrandals then to finish. And I think all in all, there was over 12,000 euros raised for the Celtic Foundation. And we have Pierce Flynn to thank gratefully for all that, you know, which is without him and his pull and the facilities that he has, and he hasn't made available to us, none of that would be able to happen. So yeah, a massive kudos to him. Yeah,
do you know, that's great to hear. And I'll stay on the charity side for a second, Ian, because not to labour the point, but it's something that's so important to every CSC I've spoken to so far. Spoken to about half a dozen groups at this moment in time, and the charitable side of things is so important. You mentioned Pierce Flynn. I know Pierce's son Taylor. I worked with him briefly. Don't know if you've kind of met Taylor in your time. So nice fella too. So I know exactly who you're talking about. Conor, what about that charitable side? How important is that to you guys as a club? And is there ongoing stuff that you do, or what's the premise of the charity work that you're involved in?
I think the charity work is one of our core values. Every year we try to set up some form of fundraiser. We've gone down through, you know, big charities and small local charities, from, you know, Headway. We've done the RNI, which is a lifeboat service. We've done the Keno Foundation. We've done the Celtic Foundation, Pieta House, which is a local charity. Feed Cork, which is a food bank, was another charity that we've donated to. And like, that comes from having fantastic members and getting them to get support from their family and friends, and, you know, getting them all lined up into our vision of, you know, supporting these people in need. Our most recent one was to on Coombe, which is a school for kids with autism down in East Cork. That was our Christmas draw charity, and like, that raised over €1,000, and myself and Ian were lucky enough to go down there to present them with the check, and to see the look on the mothers, the fathers, the children's face when you hand over a check of that much money. It makes it all worthwhile. Do you know what I mean? You're not doing it to say that you're great or anything. You're doing it for them, and I suppose that's the kind of the fundamental part of it. And you know, our CSC is probably no different to any of the other CSCs that you've had on, in saying that, you know, we recognise that it was part of what Celtic was about when it was set up, and it's something that we're happy to continue to do and take pride in.
Pride's a very word, Conor. I can hear that, you know, when you're telling the story. It sounds like there's just a real genuine sense of pride to be able to do those things. And, you know, you're right to highlight that, yes, to a huge extent, you're not different to any different CSC in doing that. Doesn't make it any less valuable. It's special work that yourselves and a lot of folks do in the name of Celtic, wherever you're based, and it's great to hear that. And I suppose on that note, Conor, is that where obviously you're relatively new into Celtic, in terms of the bigger picture, but to use a term, is that what makes Celtic more than just any other football team? You could be supporting, I don't know, Leeds United, Man United, and whoever else that that some of the people around Cork may follow. But is this what makes Celtic just that bit different and that bit more special for you?
Absolutely. I mean, just in terms of the bigger picture, I mean, the Celtic Foundation and the work that they do is amazing. You need only follow them on social media and see the things that they're doing. And, maybe my social media might be biased towards Celtic, but I don't hear or see much about other clubs doing it on that level or to that scale. Do you know what I mean? Like the recent thing about opening up for the lunches and dinners and the after school setup and that sort of thing. It's fantastic to see it, and it makes you proud to be able to tell people about it. Like, I know I love saying it to my father and my friends that, like, well, my club is doing this extra little bit, and they're not doing it for the likes of me to be talking about it. They're doing it because they want to do it for the people who are around them, support the people who support the club.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and it sounds like you've got a lot of people either within the Cork No.1 or various people around the community as well, just supporting the great work that you're doing there. So really brilliant to hear that. Ian, just in terms of obviously you guys are, as you say, maybe the younger members of the group. There's folks who have been around since those early days, Christie and other guys that we've mentioned since 1988. But what's your own, or maybe, speaking on behalf of the group, what's your own aspirations for the club in the years ahead? So 36 years old this year, I believe, if I've got my maths right. What's your hopes, moving beyond 2024?
I think the main one really, is continuity. It's like the lads I mentioned, they're all in their 60s, We've a committee there, like myself, Conor, we be the youngest at quite a stretch, And I think the biggest challenge for us going forward is just to keep guys interested, especially the younger folk. And like myself and Conor are there now. We need people to start coming up behind us now as well, down the line. I think that's where the junior members of our club really come into importance. And just like you see on telly, how well advertised the English game is. And not even the English game, like you have access to Spanish games. You have just kids still walking around wearing Cristiano Ronaldo on the back of their Al Nazir tops. So, the likelihood of them following the likes of him, Mbappe, Haaland, the likes of them young people coming through, not even just Celtic, I'm talking about the general population here. We have to do more to sell our brand. And I think that starts with the CSCs, not just in Cork, like the lads I mentioned. There's right across the board. It's just it's in general society. It needs to continue, and it needs to happen with us. Myself and Conor, we do all the PR stuff, and we just try and we try and encourage young people to get involved, and just people in general to get involved, because the more that happens, the more of a chance we have of securing that long-term future. And it's just by persevering with this this image that we're trying to sell at the moment. We have, I think, 30 junior members at the moment, and what we try to do is at least 1 year get a club trip to Celtic Park with all the kids.
Yeah.
And if not, a club trip to Celtic Park, trying to do something locally here in Cork and in Ireland, because we could take them down to, I don't know, have a kids party in some facility or some I don't know what you call them, some play area around the city here at Christmas time, and give them Celtic jerseys at Christmas. All small things like that, but they do go a long way in the long term, we hope. And that's all we can do, is just do our best and just see what happens from there.
I think so, and that's the importance of I mentioned that the book that Davey pulled together. There's 403 CSCs in that book, and I dare say there's other CSCs that Davey never managed to get a hold of at different times. But every one of these groups, it's a labour of love, isn't it? I'm sure it's a lot of hard work. And you mentioned, Neil Riley and Christie and various other guys, including yourselves, and the hard work that goes into it. But it's the dedication of these individuals that keeps that name alive and hopefully continues to push the Celtic name globally. I suppose it leads me in nicely into the, not quite the final question, but certainly one of the biggest questions I like to ask everybody. It's a short question, not necessarily a short answer, but just what does being a Celtic supporter mean to you?
Oh, yeah. It'd be a long answer, all right, Tino. How long have you got?
I've got time.
Yeah, look, it's just, as I say, just my background coming into this, being hooked. The minute I went to my first game, I just found it, I didn't force this upon myself. It just naturally happened because I was just so in awe of the whole thing. What I do love, and Conor mentioned it a bit ago, is the charity work, the charity aspect of what we do as a club. But that ethos in general, I think, is just it's just incredible. Like, it's brilliant to see. Like, and they tell me this: how does a club that started off as a charity, right? They brought a wall fed and all the rest of it, but the maintenance of dinner tables and all, and the feeding the needy in East Glasgow and what have you. How does it go from there to being a team with a 60,000 seater stadium, able to compete on the world stage? Like, maybe we're not doing so much in terms of the Champions League now, but we're still getting there. We're still seen as this massive club in this tin pot league, which I just think is incredible. Like, we have absolutely no right to be at the top table. Like just from the outside looking in, we really don't. And I just think that I love that underground or underdog kind of label that we have. We go up against the big teams like the Martin O'Neill era is all you need to know, with the likes of the men against boys game, the Blackburn Rovers. That kind of attitude. It drives us on, and it makes us stronger. I think it's something that I think we're very few teams that are supporters of a club that can be able to say that, because like we have to earn our right to be here. No, amongst everyone have to earn the right to be there, I suppose. But I just think it's that extra little bit special, and you get to know like-minded people, and you make great friends. You get to see great places, and you make great memories. And it's a great way to switch off from everyday life, and it's absolutely fantastic to be a part of. And I'm delighted I went to Inter Milan in 2015.
Yeah, sounds like your brother made the right call to take you along. And even I think there's a quote from Billy McNeil. I wish I could remember it exactly just now, but it's along the lines of Celtic Football Club is a fairy tale. It's a story that's it's kind of hard to believe, and it's those charitable roots so long ago. The end of the 19th century to European champions and everything that's gone beyond that. So, there's so many reasons why Celtic are a special club, and I think you've caught quite a lot of them just there, Ian. And what about yourself, Conor? As I say, obviously you're a bit more recent to it, but it doesn't mean it's any less special. And what does it mean to yourself to be a Celtic fan?
I think Ian hit the nail fairly well on the head there, but I would look at it from the personal side of it, like the friendships, the camaraderie, the relationships that have been struck up through meeting people that have been involved in Celtic or something that some of those friendships mean the world to me now. Do you know, that kind of way? And I travel the world over with some of these people, and the thing that I've noticed is, like, sometimes the product on the pitch might not be to the standards or the high standards that we set, but the fun, the friendships, all of that is always still there. It's a lot more than just 11 lads or 22 lads on a pitch kicking about egg a wind, as they used to say. It's so much more than that. And again, just touching on the charity stuff, that's hugely important. And it's so much more than just a game of ball. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is to me. It's amazing.
Yeah. Do you know, it's really interesting to hear you talk about, I think you both mentioned actually, it brings you closer to like-minded people. it mirrors something that Sean Kelly of the Detroit CSC said. I spoke to Sean a week or so ago. That episode's just gone live there as story number 3. And Sean said words very close to that effect. You know, for Sean and so many others, the football's a huge part of it. Of course it is, and you get passionate about the game, and you know, hopefully you've more successful seasons than not. But Sean spoke about that like-minded people. It kind of brings you closer to people with the same values and the same mindset as yourself. And as you then touch on, Conor, there's friends there for life, and that's where Celtic to an extent transcends football. You know, I know I'm using the cheesy term, but it is, you know, so much more than a football club, and I think you've both articulated that very well. So thanks for taking the time to give those answers. Ian, if folks find themselves in the vicinity in County Cork, obviously they've got a few choices in terms of CSCs. There's yourself, there's the lads who I met last night, Ger and his brother at the very old CSC. You've got the Cork City CSC, you've got Leeside, different things. But if they find themselves close to you guys in terms of heading into the Cork No.1, where can they look you up? Where can they contact you on social? And where could they nip along to join you for a game?
It's very straightforward, to be honest. I like to think we're very active on social media. We're, you know, you just have to Google or take it to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Cork No.1 CSC, and 9 times out of 10 we will pop up top of the list. And yeah, we're constantly putting up posts advertising the games when they're on. Even if we're there or not, there will be someone in the pub watching it, you know. So, and that's something we take great pride in, to be honest, you know, is when people, you know, just randomers, they might text us on the social media saying that, oh, we'll be down there Saturday, will you be showing the game? Thinking of popping down, etc. And we'd say, yeah, absolutely. And what we like to do is, you know, we do our utmost to make sure they feel welcome and that they go home happy. And, you know, we don't have much stuff for them. But what we can certainly do is just be warm, be welcoming, show our gratitude, you know. And Christy again, he's the man at the forefront of all that. We'll even organise to travel arrangements if we can get someone to collect anybody in the area that wants to go or has contacted about going. Excuse me. All we do is just do our best and put our best foot forward with that kind of thing, Tino. And Conor does the Instagram for us. He's I like to think we have a very good working relationship. Like every time there's something going up, I'll always be in consultation with him and vice versa. And you know, it's all about communication really, and that's kind of just the ins and outs of it really, Tino. It's keep it simple and just go at it with the right attitude, and things should be okay.
Yeah, it sounds good, and it sounds like a very welcoming place. So I'd encourage any non-members, if you find yourself in that part of Ireland at any point, you know, to look the guys up and check them out at the Ferry Arms and join them for a game or just a drink or anything at all. Conor, just as we start to wrap things up, then I'd just like to come to you for your own final thoughts in general before we close out the recording.
Final thoughts are just that it's been a huge opportunity for us, and I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to, you know, tell our side of the CSC. Obviously, there's lads with more experience who'd have better stories maybe than some of the stories that I've given anyway. But just a huge thank you to you and fair play to Ian for getting all this organised and the two of you for setting date, and delighted to be a part of it.
You're absolutely welcome, Conor. It's a genuine privilege for me to be able to speak to you guys and the various guys, you know, across the globe. So thanks, you know, to you both for taking the time to join us here and for promoting the great work you're doing over in Cork. You know, I'll give the final word to yourself. Anything you'd want to add to the recording before we close things out?
I don't really. I suppose, yeah, as Conor said there, there's a lot older lads out there that will have other stories and probably better stories to tell as opposed to myself and Conor. But we have lads there, they're very camera shy, you know. Yeah, so you were stuck with us on that one. Just thanks very much again for having us on. We are absolutely delighted to be here. Great opportunity, thoroughly enjoyable. And I think what we'll have to do now is we'll have to organise to have yourself over to the Ferry Arms for for the podcast of the Celtic Exchange someday.
I'd absolutely love to do that. Let's make that a thing. We'd love to do something with you guys in person. But for the meantime, a real pleasure to chat with you both, and genuine best wishes for everything you're doing over at the Cork No.1 CSC. So a huge thanks to Ian and Conor for joining me on the Celtic Exchange today and for sharing their CS story with us. If you want us to feature your Celtic Supporters Club on a future episode, then just get in touch through our website at celticexchange.com. CSC Stories is brought to you in partnership with Football Without Fans, the definitive guide to Celtic supporters clubs around the globe. It's available on Amazon now, and as always, we'll link to that in the show notes for this episode. But in the meantime, thanks again to Ian Conor, and as always, our thanks to you for tuning in. We'll be back again soon with more CSC Stories.